Welcome to the Story A Day podcast. This is Julie Duffy from storyaday.org, encouraging you to be a writer every day, not someday. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Julie from Story A Day here with this week's triumphant return of the Story A Day podcast. And triumph is the operative word because I try and set a theme for every month as I go through the year. And I'm using the I Writer framework, which is a way to break up the writing life into different areas that you can look at. And this month is the T of I Writer, which stands for triumph. And it's really important for us to celebrate our little wins, our big wins, everything in between. So I'm going to be talking about that in a little bit and some ways that you can do that and a resource I have for you that you might be interested in getting hold of to help you take this idea and go further with it. But first, I have a little bit of a rant. If you've been following me on social media this week, you'll have seen that I'm getting a little irritated by something. Not irritated, I am spitting mad about something that's going on right now, and it's related to AI, but it's not about AI and how AI is going to steal our jobs and the sky is falling. I actually think, and if you're interested in this, I'll write about it more at the blog. I actually think that we need to keep an eye on it, but there are some ways in which we can learn to use the tool to help us as writers, mainly in doing the jobs we already don't want to do. Things like admin, things like writing your bio and summary, things like that. There are ways that we can not be afraid of artificial intelligence. It's already not good enough to write fiction, but it may get there one day. So there's a whole debate to be had on that. I think the handcrafted fiction is always going to be valued on some level, the same way that books never went away. When ebooks came along, everybody thought that paper books were going to go away, and they haven't. But anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about in regard to AI this week. This week, something happened that you may have come across in your newsletters and whatever social media you follow about writing and publishing, because Jane Friedman, friend of Story A Day and previous guest on the podcast, and educator, writer, someone who you should be following if you have any interest in the business of writing. She discovered this week that Amazon had allowed several junk books on the topic of writing to be published under the name Jane Friedman and attached to her profile at Amazon. Now, everything that Amazon does is a little murky. I want to start off by saying I used to be a massive fan of Amazon. You'll have heard me say that I worked for the very first company that offered print-on-demand publishing direct to authors. And during that time, our company talked with big players like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, told them what we were doing, maybe tried to get them to take an interest in our little startup. That didn't work out, but then all of a sudden Amazon started doing print-on-demand and doing it really well. They had the scale, and at that point in the late 90s, early 2000s, they were still focused on the customer experience. Since recently, I've certainly noticed that Amazon feels like going to a car boot sale, a jumble sale, a flea market, whatever you want to call it, with all these independent sellers on their platform, selling you anything that might be junk and it might be legit. And it's really hard to tell what you're getting at Amazon. But when it comes to publishing, which Amazon really put its flag in the new world of publishing 25 years ago. So yes, Amazon has been wonderful for writers in that we now have direct access to readers. We can decide to publish. It used to be that you had to find somebody who would publish you. And that's certainly still a valid model, but you don't have to wait for somebody to choose your book. You don't have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to have somebody lay out your book and print your book, and then you don't have to store them in your garage and drop ship them yourself if you find anyone who's willing to buy it. Instead, you can upload your file to Amazon or the other people who offer those services now. But you can upload your title and they will handle all the back end stuff, print the book, ship the book, send you a nice report about what you've sold, pay you. These things are all wonderful, but it's all very murky. It's not an equal relationship. Even though they give better cut of the net profit than publishers traditionally did, which of course puts pressure on publishers to keep behaving and treat authors properly. Your sales reports are quite clear, especially compared to the traditional publishing world, which, trust me, is a lot murkier. But nobody really knows how anything gets done behind the scenes at Amazon's. We don't know what the sales ranks really mean. We don't know how they decide what is a legitimate book and what is not. A lot of people have books taken down because of copyright claims or supposed copyright infringements. People have their accounts locked. There's no customer service. You have to email and hope that you get through to somebody. And so this is not an equal relationship. And until now, Amazon has had all the power because they own the means of production, right? They own this great big platform that can help you get your book out there. And it was convenient, and that was good enough. But authors were increasingly spending a lot of time scrambling in Facebook groups and Discord servers saying, I've had a problem with Amazon, how do I get in touch with someone? And the authors really have no rights when it comes to dealing with the company. And this has been shown this week in a huge way by this problem that Jane highlighted, which is that you can have books attached to your name at Amazon that you didn't write. It's happened to me, and I've only got a couple of books up there, and all of a sudden I discovered there was this book by some other Julie Duffy that was a children's book or something that was on my profile. Putting the onus on authors to police what's happening under their name, that Amazon is doing things to put books on our profiles, and it's probably all AI, it's probably all machine generated, and Amazon's taking no responsibility for that part of it. So when that book appeared on my profile that wasn't mine, I don't know how that happened. I'm sure no person actually made that decision. But now the problem is that with the ease with which you can generate an ebook, I can go into ChatGPT or one of the other AI models that's using the GPT model. I can go in there and I can tell it to write me a 60-page book about any topic. And I can take that text, I can run it through a template, upload it, and be done in probably half an hour. And then of course people can set up macros to do that for them automatically. So there's the potential for a flood of junk books being attached to any author's name, stealing any author's identity basically on Amazon, and saying to the authors that you need to report violations, that I am responsible for policing what they put on their platform, is just not good enough. If you think about the hoops you have to jump through to get a bank account, I don't know if you've opened a bank account recently, but there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. If you think about the hoops you have to jump through to form an LLC or to do a business relationship, or get a credit card, anything like that, there are checks that happen that don't seem to happen between the point where somebody uploads a book and it gets added to your Author Central profile. And it's time for Amazon and all these other big companies to take responsibility for their part of protecting their business partners. This isn't going to happen by me just ranting about it on social media. It got a little coverage with Jane talking about it. She's got a big high profile. It was in The Guardian. It got picked up by various other outlets. But what's going to need to happen is that we're going to have to band together. And the Authors Guild is going to have to do one of their famous lawsuits about it. Maybe Ally, the Alliance of Independent Authors. My money's on them actually having more chance of getting something done because they're more motivated to get it done, because their members have income which is directly affected by their branding and their visibility on platforms like Amazon. The established publishing industry is not known for its fleetness of feet. It doesn't change that swiftly. It doesn't really have as much of an incentive to get on top of this as independent authors. Also, they have a little more clout. Like if the head of Penguin Random House tries to get through to somebody at Amazon, I'm pretty sure they're going to get through to them. If an independent author tries to get through to somebody at Amazon, what do you think our chances are? Organizations like Ally, organizations like the Authors Guild, maybe even the Writers Guild need to get involved in this. Or a handful of entrepreneurial enraged authors maybe need to get together and form a group, and we need to start agitating on our own behalf, because these things are coming. This is going to become a much bigger problem, and it's going to become a much bigger problem a lot faster than we're expecting. And I just don't want people to get discouraged by this, because as individuals, it is so hard for us to do anything, but that's not the only way to get anything done. I really do think it's time for authors to get together and become activists on our own behalves. There are some organisations out there who are already doing this work. PEN America is another one. Seek them out, support them, tell them that you're concerned about this, get involved in the conversation. Don't hide from this, because it's coming. And I'm going to do a series at Story a Day about AI, the opportunities and the potential problems. So don't feel that you're alone, don't lose hope, don't lose courage. These changes in the industry have been happening the whole time I've been involved with it, since 1998, which is a long time ago now. And things change, and we weather the storm, and people find cool new ways to use technology, and they share information. And authors are some of the most generous people I know, because we all know we're in this together. Nobody can write all the books that everybody wants to read. So authors do tend to band together and help each other out. I think this is a new front on which we need to be talking and not hiding our heads in the sand, which is very tempting because it's all a mess at the moment, and you don't want to spend too much time worrying about it. You want to be writing your books. So anyway, that's going on with AI this week, and I am really looking for people to put some pressure on companies like Amazon to hold them accountable for the relationship that they have with their partners. It's a very unequal partnership, and I think it's time for us to require that Amazon puts some protections in place as a fair business practice. Anyway, I promised I would talk about something a little happier than the coming robot apocalypse. So let me do that. This month at Story a Day, my theme is triumph. You may have heard me talk about this before. It's incredibly important for us to celebrate every little good thing that happens in our writing. And it can be hard to do that. So I've got a workbook that, if you want to get hold of that, I'm providing a link to that in the show notes. It can be really easy to get stuck on thinking about all the things that we have to do, all of the things that we want long term, and lose the fun of writing. I had coffee with a friend this week who resolutely does not make writing her job. Her day job is her day job, and on the weekends she writes. And she works with a hybrid publisher to release Regency romances, and they do quite well. And what she reminded me of as she talked about this was how much fun writing is. Sometimes we get so hung up on the hard work, the bits that are difficult, the ways that they aren't right, things aren't right, that we lose the sense that this is actually fun. She's writing things that she enjoys writing. She's not worrying too much about what the market will bear, even though she's releasing these books and they are selling. She's been inching her books more towards the humour end of the spectrum, which is not what you necessarily think of straight away in Regency, unless you read a lot of Regency and you know that Jane Austen is actually really funny, and a lot of the modern writers who are writing like that have a lot of humour in their writing. But she's been inching her books more and more towards the funny because that's what she enjoys, and she's been working slowly to get her audience used to the idea that this next series is going to be pretty funny and goofy. And then she looked at me and she went, "It's just so fun." And I was like, that's the bit what we often forget. So one of the ways that you can trick your brain into remembering that is by celebrating. Every time you do anything, don't sit at the end of it and go, "Oh, I got that done. It was so hard. Oh my goodness, I feel so virtuous, but I'm just exhausted." No, at the end of it, you need to do something to tell your physical being, that was fun. So you pat yourself on the back, you do a little dance, you do something silly, you give yourself a sticker, you put a star in your notebook, you do something that actually lifts you physically, gives you that little dopamine surge that says to your brain, next time you think about writing, "Oh, that's a fun thing that I do." It's not always fun. Not every part of writing is fun, but celebrating when things go well tells your psyche and your physical self that what you're doing is a thing you want to be doing, and a thing you want to be doing more of. Now, that's all very well in theory, so that's why I put together this workbook, which gives you some pages at the end of it, which give you concrete options to write down concrete ways you can celebrate every little thing that happens in your writing and how you can put a trigger onto it. So I'm going to link to that in the show notes. That's entirely optional, but if this idea resonates with you, I think that you should definitely put on your to-do list this week some reminders to yourself to celebrate all the little things that go right in your writing this week, and come over to the blog. You can search for all of my posts on this by searching for things like triumph and celebrate. There's lots of articles there about that for free. There's also the workbook I'm going to link to. And I really want you to think this week about how you can inject fun into the process of writing and also into your general thoughts about writing, because motivation can be hard to come by, especially when we're tired or we're in the difficult part of a story or we've got to do tasks that we don't really want to do. So I'm going to encourage you to think about the fun, find ways to triumph, and I'll talk more about motivation next week. And in the meantime, don't panic about AI. Lots of people are watching, keeping an eye on things, and working to figure out what's going on so that we can educate everybody about the best uses of AI tools, while also trying to keep the companies that are doing this accountable. That's what I have for you this week. Thank you for bearing with me during my rant, and I hope that you find lots of ways to triumph in your writing this week. Keep writing. Thanks for listening. Why not come over to the blog at storyaday.org and check out this week's writing prompts and articles. And in the meantime, have a great creative week, and of course, keep writing.